Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And we are continuing this month of love, as per tradition, by talking about more romantic style horror movies. Although this month we've made some definite choices.
And how romantic can a horror movie possibly be?
Well, as it turns out, there's different kinds of romance and there's different kinds of horror movies. So today we are talking about The Vanishing, which is a 1988 Dutch-French psychological thriller film, co-written and directed by George Sluizer. George Sluizer. And based on Tim Krabbe's novel, The Golden Egg. The film recounts a man's obsessive years-long search for his girlfriend after she mysteriously disappears from a rest area in the French countryside. The film score was composed by Henny Vrienten. Vrienten. I am terrible at butchering other people's names, clearly.
So, The Vanishing, or as we like to call it, Schrödinger's Girlfriend, is a film that would become a critical success around the world, but would be blocked from Oscar contention after the Academy deemed the film too French to be entered by the Netherlands. Sluizer would later direct an American film remake of the film, and fun fact, the Netherlands chose not to submit another film, right?
That is correct. Okay, listeners, my nightmare. I had it again last night.
The one where you are inside a golden egg and you can't get out and you float all over space forever?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh. This is The Vanishing.
A young Dutch couple, Rex and Saskia, played by Jean Barovitz and Joanne Tersteg, are on holiday in France. They're in love, slightly bickering, slightly blissful. You know the way couples are when everything still feels permanent. On the drive, Saskia talks about a recurring dream. She's drifting through space inside a golden egg, total isolation. In the latest version of the dream, another egg appears, another person inside. She believes that if the two eggs collide, it will mean the end of something. Loneliness, existence, subtlety and foreshadowing as a storytelling tool. Who knows? Their car runs out of petrol. Romantic European vacation energy immediately downgraded into mild inconvenience. They stop at a highway rest area. Rex promises that he will never abandon her. To seal this eternal vow, they bury 2 coins at the base of a tree, because nothing says forever like loose change in French dirt. To mark the occasion, Saskia goes inside to buy drinks. She never comes back. Rex searches, calls, panics. The kind of panic that starts small and then becomes permanent. Meanwhile, enter Raymond, played by Bernard Pierre Donadieu, a wealthy, polite, well-dressed family man. He has a wife, children, a country house, the kind of man who probably organizes his spice rack alphabetically. I do that. He is also planning to abduct a woman. I don't do that. Not because he's desperate, not because he's chaotic, but because he's curious. He buys an isolated house. He tests chloroform. He rehearses conversation. He times how long someone might stay unconscious. He fails a few attempts. It's almost embarrassing, like a suburban dad picking up a new hobby and not quite getting it right. Eventually, he refines the plan. Pretend to be an injured motorist. Ask for help. Choose a rest stop out of town where no one will recognize him. He goes to the same rest area. Things happen, allegedly. And 3 years pass. Rex is still searching, still obsessed. He receives postcards from someone claiming to be the kidnapper, inviting him to a cafe in Nîmes. He shows up every time. The kidnapper never appears. What Rex doesn't know is that the cafe sits directly across from Raymond's apartment, where Raymond calmly watches him wait, watches him and studies the endurance of another man's grief.
A Dickensian.
Quite. Unspeakably Dickensian. Rex now has a new girlfriend. Leinke Planenthal. Leinke Planenthal? Sorry. Leinke Planenthal. Who tries to help him move on, tries to help him search, tries to help him live. But you can't compete with a ghost. Eventually, Rex has a dream. Saskia's dream. He's trapped inside the golden egg, drifting in space. Leinke realizes she's dating a man who is emotionally buried alive already. So she leaves. There's that subtlety again. Desperate, Rex makes a public appeal on television. He says he doesn't want revenge, he just wants the truth. And Raymond, ever the scientist, takes that as an invitation. He approaches Rex and calmly admits to the kidnapping. Yes, it was him. Yes, he did it. And yes, he will tell Rex what happened. On one condition. Rex has to come with him. During the drive, Raymond explains himself. He has known since childhood that he has no conscience, no moral instinct. When he once saved a drowning girl, he wondered, was he truly good or just capable of being good? So he devised a test. If he's capable of committing the worst act imaginable and chooses not to, then he is good. But of course, he doesn't choose not to. He chooses to find out. He describes, almost casually, how he lured Saskia at the rest stop. How easy it was. No theatrics, no rage, just logistics. Rex and Raymond return to the desolate rest area at night. Rex threatens police. Raymond shrugs. There's no evidence, no witnesses, no proof. Then Raymond pours 2 cups of coffee. He tells Rex the only way to know what happened to Saskia is to experience it exactly as she did. Rex stands there, torn between survival and obsession. He digs up the coins he and Saskia buried 3 years earlier, the little promises of eternity, now meaningless relics, and then he drinks the coffee, because not knowing is worse. He wakes up buried alive in a coffin underground. The end. Just kidding. Raymond returns home to his wife and children, domestic tranquility, breakfast table energy. In his car sits a newspaper headline announcing the double disappearance of Saskia and Rex. Their portraits appear side by side, framed in egg-shaped ovals. 2 golden eggs, finally together, drifting forever, over easy.
The end.
Oh, what a climax.
The Vanishing had a limited release in the Netherlands starting in October 1988. There was an even smaller international release over the years, primarily in France over in 1989, and the US as far as 1991. There's not a lot of box office information available, but according to Box Office Mojo, the film does have worldwide theatrical gross of about 80,000, I guess a reported budget of 165,000, which is insane.
Yeah.
The film would go on to become a respected cult classic on home media.
Especially Laserdisc.
Laserdisc.
Yes.
My goodness.
That's right.
It did just have a 2K restoration recently.
The first time I watched The Vanishing was on Laserdisc.
My goodness, you had a Laserdisc machine?
Oh, my friend did that.
Oh.
We weren't fancy enough for that. The Vanishing has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes and is certified fresh. The audience score sits at 88%. The site's consensus reads, a clinical, maddening descent into the mind of a serial killer and slowly unraveling hero, culminating with one of the scariest endings of all time. The film received high international acclaim upon its release.
Roger Ebert wrote in the Chicago Sun-Times, one of the most intriguing things about The Vanishing is the film's unusual structure, which builds suspense even while it seems to be telling us almost nothing or almost everything we want to know. Ted Mayer of the Oregonian described it as an intellectual horror film, a richly and deeply scary tale, one that works on the mind as much as the emotions.
Janet Maslin of the New York Times praised the film's performances and controlled pacing, adding, Sluizer is especially effective in bringing together the two halves of this story as Rex and Raymond cross paths 3 years after Saskia disappears. The influence of Claude Charbol, for whose work Mr. Sluizer has expressed admiration, is especially noticeable in the film's later stages as quiet malice and fatal curiosity become intertwined.
Stanley Kubrick thought The Vanishing was the most terrifying film he had seen and called Sluizer to discuss the editing. Dave Kerr of the Chicago Tribune wrote, it's a film that functions on curiosity rather than real interest, given the fact that the characters are thinly drawn and largely unsympathetic, yet in the end punishes the audience for wanting to have its questions answered. You're here.
Yeah. You think the audience is punished because of that?
Yes!
Obviously the audience is punished.
I felt punished.
Punish.
It does have some accolades and legacy here at the Dallas-Fort Worth Critics Association.
Yay.
It was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film.
At the USA National Board of Review, it won Best Foreign Film.
Wow, that's quite the accolades.
As we mentioned earlier, it was the Dutch submission for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 1988, but disqualified because the Academy determined that there was way too much French dialogue in it to represent the Netherlands. And they declined to send in another film, leaving them unrepresented for the first time since 1972.
I think it's perfect for the Netherlands. Like, they speak like 18 languages.
Yeah. I mean, and it's Europe. I mean, everyone speaks multiple languages, right?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
In 1993, George Sluizer directed an American remake starring Jeff Bridges, Kiefer Sutherland, and Sandra Bullock.
Which we will talk about momentarily, I'm sure.
Yes. But we need to talk about the background of The Vanishing itself. Yeah. As we have alluded to, before The Vanishing, director George Sluizer had already crossed paths with journalist and novelist Tim Krabbe. And so he first got to know Krabbe through his articles about filmmaking that was happening in the United States. Although Krabbe is
He's Dutch.
He's Dutch. He's a Dutch chess player and journalist and bicyclist and many other things.
He's all those things?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Hitler was a vegetarian and a painter. Sluizer first got to know Krabbe through his articles about filmmaking in the United States. These articles eventually became a novel, which Sluizer adapted into his film Red Desert Penitentiary from 1985. So the two had already had a creative relationship before The Vanishing ever existed. And so after that film, Krabbe started writing a new novel called Het Gouden Ei, which translates, of course, to The Golden Egg. And interestingly, because the story was set in France, Krabbe actually consulted Sluizer while he was writing it. He asked him about French town names, family names, so Sluizer wasn't just waiting in the wings. He was already basically shaping the world of the book as he was being written.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So Sluizer had access to early manuscripts, and after reading just a few chapters, he immediately said he wanted the film rights. And so, of course, I'm sure that was in Krabbe's mind after making one of them. And so Krabbe initially planned to write the screenplay himself after finishing the novel. And so when that first draft was completed, Sluizer called it not bad, but not good. No. So they collaborated on a second and then a third. And that's when things got a little tense, right? Okay. So they began to have what Sluizer described as a difference of opinion about what should actually happen in the film, where scenes should go, and how to tell the story dramatically. And eventually Sluizer stopped working with Krabbe altogether, basically saying, I bought the rights, I'll finish the script myself, which understandably angered Krabbe.
Oh my God.
But the rest, as they say, is history. And so in the end, the film stays very faithful to the novel's core narrative, but there are two major differences. The film structure is more complex. Obviously, it uses flashbacks extensively and it reveals character traits gradually. Mm-hmm. And then Rex and Raymond spend much more time together, almost like a buddy cop movie, after their meeting in the film than they do in the book, right? Which probably makes more sense in the book. But that second change really deepens the psychological duel between them, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I've never read this novel, but from everything that I can tell, it's very, very faithful. I think there may be some structural differences, like you said, where scenes should go and things like that. I think it may be...
I think it's that he wanted the film rights to the book, and then the screenplay started to depart.
Yeah. I will say that the one thing I saw that I thought was an interesting change from novel to movie is the time in which they actually meet up. So in the movie, it's about 3 years, right? And then in the novel, it's about 8. So he has been obsessing over this for almost a decade.
Okay.
Which I think adds a little bit of a layer to that character. Right.
Well, you can hear the director's screenplay in this. Like, I think if he wrote one line, it's the line then about you get over someone in like half the time that you've been with them or something. And so like that means 4 months or whatever. So whatever the director thought that was his injection.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why it's on that 3-year timeline. Mm-hmm. But, as far as like actually making the thing pretty straightforward, and there's not much to be said about casting, since Sluizer's style was basically either, lightning fast and based on a whim, like choosing Joanna Tersteeg for Saskia, since her hair color happened to match his daughter's.
Well, that's a good choice.
Mm-hmm. Or it was between two characters he couldn't decide, or two actors he couldn't decide on, like in the case of Jean Bourvet or as Rex, in which case he was apparently vocal about his buyer's remorse during filming, which was not great for that actor.
Wow.
Yeah. And that said, many find the casting of Bernard Pierre Donadieu, I don't know how these French words are pronounced.
Bernard Pierre Donadieu.
Okay. As Raymond, the killer, was a lightning in a bottle decision. That's what some people think, at least.
So let me get this straight. This director had beef with the writer and then said, you know what, I bought this, it's mine, which is fair. I mean, when you buy rights to a book, you can do whatever you want with it. and then he cast someone and he was just like, well, I just made the wrong choice all through filming.
Yeah, apparently.
He sounds like a real dick.
Kind of is, yeah.
Kind of dickish.
Yeah, but he was not the only one. So the film was shot largely in Nîmes, as you pronounced it, France, and in the Netherlands on a shockingly small budget, as we said, of $165,000. But the real drama wasn't just on screen. So in later interviews, Jean Bourvet said that Donadieu, the killer, behaved like a dictator on set, which created tension among the cast and even with Sluizer. So Gianna Ter Steeg, who played whatever the fucking face is,
Saska.
later described serious clashes with Donadieu. She felt like he demeaned her and questioned her ability as an actress. They only had that one scene in the gas station, you know?
Yeah, shit.
So she eventually learned that he was worried she wasn't strong enough to act opposite to him. But the third and fourth day of filming, she said the situation had become unbearable. She also said that Donadieu repeatedly made jokes at her expense and refused to speak to her in English, even though she had only a limited understanding of French. So
which was part of her character.
She threatened to leave the production entirely. That's when Sluizer had to actually step in and confronted Donadieu, and after that, tensions reportedly eased somewhat.
So he stepped in and did his job as a director, but he let it go on for that long.
He was busy bitching about his choice.
That's right.
Lead.
Oh God, this entire set just seems terrible.
Yeah.
I don't. Is it a European thing?
I don't know. Well, apparently this guy's he was accused of the Israeli government of having blood libel, saying that there was as he was with an Israeli soldier and the soldier shot 2 Palestinian children right in front of him, but there's no corroborating evidence about that. There's a lot of other things. He told the cast that he had to borrow money from the Dutch mob to pay the people. That's why there was no food for the crew or whatever. So this guy's full of, I don't know, could be tall tales, could be all true. I don't know.
Well, seemingly
the Dutch mob.
These people just wanted to get this movie over with. They're like, let's just do it.
So the film itself has obviously there's themes.
There's a lot of themes in here.
And mise en scène.
Ooh, you're bringing the French out for that kind of French movie.
Yes. So the author, obviously Tim Krabbe, wasn't a horror novelist in the traditional sense. He said he was a chess player and a bicyclist, but also a journalist. He was a journalist, essayist, chess enthusiast, someone deeply fascinated by obsession and psychology. And that obsession thread is the key. So he worked often in fixation, endurance, unsettling logic of people who pursue something to the bitter end.
And that really is what this movie is all about, in a nutshell.
It is. It's not super into what's actually happening. It's not, it's not about plot.
No, I mean, because they lay it all out for you as the movie goes on.
It's about emotion. Yeah. And so The Vanishing isn't really a whodunit or a giallo, although it's almost framed that way. Mm-hmm. It's not a thriller about solving a crime. It's not French extremity. It's more like French moderation. But really, it's a story about the unbearable need to know. Almost a be careful what you wish for story, but with, floating space egg metaphors, but also nod to the banality of evil. Though one could argue that Psycho and Peeping Tom cornered that market first.
That's right. I feel like those movies really did have something to say about the banality of evil. And I think this movie does too. I think this movie goes out of its way to make it seem so matter of fact and really just make the movie kind of boring to watch. Things are unfolding in front of your eyes. And there's not really a whole lot of question for me in this movie, except for how his girlfriend died, and that's really all he wants to know too. So the one question that our hero wants answered is the one question that the audience wants answered. And the pieces that they show you along the way, I don't know, don't really answer the question. Mm. We all have to go through what he goes through, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what I expected going into this movie was they first of all, we didn't mention in the synopsis that they get stuck in a tunnel. They run out of gas. They run out of petrol in the tunnel. And it's a pitch black, more pitch black than it should be. Normally there are lights and you can see a light at the end of the tunnel. This was not the case here. And it was very explicitly done. I think specifically and intentionally done that way. That kind of hangs on that visual illusion metaphor of the cosmic egg floating in space and the loneliness feeling. It's that moment where, I thought this was where the horror movie was going to start, right? I kind of expected and hoped for kind of like Twilight Zone-esque reality bleed or even like a time loop.
Yeah.
So it visually matched the metaphor being separated into that endless darkness and hinted at some of that cosmic level so what, or at least like a higher level metaphor, especially with a name like The Vanishing, or at least in English, that made me think it would be a little bit more genre or supernatural, as opposed to something like Missing or the subtitle on the Dutch poster itself, which was, Have You Seen This Lady? Right? But like as the film goes on, it does seem to match certain Lynchian styles, although that might be more indicative or coincidental look and feel at the time more than anything else. Kind of that 16 millimeter late 80s, early 90s TV Twin Peaks aesthetic.
Yep.
But that, along with its methodical pacing and weird out of place and sometimes very basic sounding soundtrack, inconsistent editing, and of course the, Laura Palmer of it all, I was expecting a higher level of so what? And, that I've come to expect from something more Lynchian, I was clearly mistaken.
No, I feel like, okay, so we've already talked about like critics' response to this movie, and I feel like people's response to the end of this movie is kind of overblown. I don't think that it's the scariest ending I've ever seen in a movie. I feel like
even for its time.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I could understand that with Audition a little bit, but with this one, I just absolutely can't.
Well, and later on, I want to talk about some comparisons between the two movies that we talk about this month, because I think there's shocking differences and really shocking comparisons, or maybe not so shocking. I don't know. But I mean, most people rate this movie very, very highly. When people talk about some of the best like genre or horror movies ever created, this is sometimes on the list.
I think Entertainment Weekly said it was like their 25th scariest horror film ever or something.
And it's not.
No.
I mean, It operates on lots of different kinds of levels. I think sometimes it can be considered kind of Hitchcockian, and it's certainly very Lynchian.
I could see like true crime girlies like locking into this, but like you're a true crime girly and you locked into it, but like not in a scary way, just like kind of an interest way. But there's also no mystery unraveling. There's no mystery like carrot on a stick kind of thing.
Exactly.
For the audience. It's literally and very intentionally explaining everything as it goes on, either visually or through dialogue. Like he's like, I am a claustrophobic sociopath. What is he going to do? That's worse than killing someone. Right. And it's like, so everything ties together. Like you can literally see him, passing. He's not just like doing this for a sexual fantasy. It's the sociopathic reason of just wanting to have done it and proving to himself that he has done it, to see who he is, some sort of demented self-discovery. He's passing like hookers, on the street.
Yeah.
He's passing people like literally asking for rides. He has to do it his way for his own social experiment. And we know that they also double down on him being literally teaching chemistry. So he's very formulaic.
He's a scientist.
In his approach. He's a scientist. And that is his approach. And it's that cold, unfeeling, methodical, banal, like almost boring quality of checking off a list, of being a psycho, Yeah. And I guess that could scare some people, who are maybe coddled or don't know the world around them. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's just, to me, it's not scary. Or as intriguing as I think it may have been at the time. I don't know.
I think,
it's taken from Dahmer a lot.
I think it's different, and especially for the time that it was made. It's not a whodunit, you know what I mean? Because the who is right there in front of our face the entire time. Like you said, like there's no mystery to this. And I think that everyone can sort of see the direction that our main character is going to go in. Like his obsession is so deep that he has to know, of course, he's going to make any choice to find out what happened to this woman. And sometimes it's not even because he loves her so much. I think it's just about his own personal quest. He has to know. And it's not about closure for himself. Well, it is about closure for himself and less about closure for his relationship.
It also kind of reminded me of Possession in a way.
Okay.
Not also because of its kind of European look and feel and like the way it was shot at the time, and also because it's more about the emotions than reality. But Possession kind of goes off the rails in reality too. So I was kind of expecting that, but from like a Lynchian area, like in that, but it's just, it really doubles down on like, no, this is boring reality and this can happen in boring reality.
And I think that makes it very real life. You know, I think that people have this dramatic sense of what a psychopath or a sociopath does or acts on a normal basis, but they're not. They're just very boring, methodical people who have the capacity to do bad things.
Right. But I think that there's ways to do that that are actually scary. Like, you know, I guess you could say this does have a legacy. You know, there are films where like knowledge is the horror, like Seven, Zodiac Prisoners, which more or less scary, but they're more like procedural, right? So I guess like segueing from Lynch to Finch, but maybe the banality of evil cousins like Funny Games or The Strangers are more closely related, especially things like The Strangers.
I would say so.
Whereas literally just like, you know, this is scary as fuck because of the way it's shot and filmed, but there's no mystery to solve there. You know, when asked point blank, they say because you answered the door.
Yep.
You know, and that's it. And that can be, that was one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen. This is one of the most least terrifying movies I've ever seen, but kind of about the same thing.
Yes. I think ultimately this can show you like, and I think these things happen every single day in real life. I mean, maybe not getting buried alive, but I think that people just go missing and by the kind of people that this man is in this movie. And when you talk about things like Funny Games or The Strangers, you're right. These are two unsettling movies, very, very frightening, filled with terror, you know, and this is not. And I don't think that makes it a bad movie. I just don't think that sometimes it should be lumped into a specific genre, you know?
So, I know that you've done some research into the differences of the novel and also the remake.
Yeah, the remake specifically. So, like, when we decided to watch this movie, and really, like, I brought it up because I was looking at your Letterboxd watch list, or, you know, the things you want to watch, and this was on it, and I was just like, oh, perfect. This kind of fits with Audition a little bit, you know, for this, like, love is a trap kind of theme for Valentine's Day. And then I remembered that there was a remake of this, but I had no idea that the director did the same movie, right? And I find that fascinating, right? But I haven't seen this remake since it came out in like 1993 or 94. So it was a little teen boy.
Maybe we should have a list of that, you know, because I know there's a short list at least. I know the guy that directed The Grudge also did the American version, and I think there's been several others.
And Funny Games.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I didn't want to rewatch the remake, so I just looked it up. And, you know, I find it fascinating when a director gets to remake his own movie. And here are some major differences because they're kind of major, right? So obviously it's very Americanized, right? And this is the chief complaint from critics about it. They said that the original is about the banality of evil, like we said, but the remake became about the evil of banality. So it's a quote from an English film critic that the movie itself was far more boring than its original. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible.
In an Americanized version, I would say that it's not, right? But they spend a lot less time with the kidnapping rehearsal, right? We know who the killer is, just like in the original European version, but we don't get to see him going through all these steps as much, right? There is more time spent in this movie building up the new relationship that Kiefer Sutherland has with Nancy Travis.
Which is weird. I feel like that was miscast. I feel like they should have swapped if she's like the main character. Because Sandra Bullock is a much bigger actress. Maybe not at the time. I don't know.
No, not at the time. I think Nancy Travis was a bigger actress. But so this movie actually shows them meeting. They have their own little meet cute, and they're in this relationship for a long time. You see them spending all this time together. And then you start to see how his obsession is kind of ruining their relationship, even bringing about like an ultimatum from Nancy Travis saying, well, I'm going to leave. And this sort of happens in the European version too, but this is the bulk of the movie. There's also this looming book deal that's over the main character, Jeff.
Had to insert capitalism into it somehow.
They did. It's America. And so he's like being pressured to write a book about, you know, the experience of this vanishing.
If you can't get the girl, you can at least get the money.
Throughout this movie, there's sort of like this drop in obsession. And so like Nancy Travis is like, hey, you have to stop searching for this woman. You know, I'm sitting right here in front of you. And he agrees to that. And so the villain reaches out to the main character, not because of his continued obsession, but because of the drop off of obsession. He wants him to be obsessed more, right? So they go through the whole thing. He comes to the house and he's like, you have to go through all the things that she went through, right? So, and then it leads to the ending. And there's this whole convoluted thing about the villain showing
Helping
up.
him paint a diner's window? Oh, no, that's Pleasant Films.
The villain shows up at Kiefer Sutherland's house just as he's recording a new answering machine
Kiefer
message.
Sutherland isn't the bad guy?
No, Kiefer Sutherland's the good guy. Jeff Bridges is the bad guy. And he's probably the best part of this.
Cast.
And so Jeff Bridges is picked up on the answering machine recording. Nancy Travis calls, listens to the new recording, hears him say his name or something like that. So while Kiefer Sutherland is buried alive, Nancy Travis is able to go and...
Nancy drew it.
Yeah. And get to there, rescue him. He's able to get out of the coffin and he kills the villain. And that's the end.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
And then they get a book deal.
Yeah, and then they write a book. Fuck, really? Yeah, they write a book. So based on this, which one do you think sounds better?
The original.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. So
I wonder why he did that.
I don't know.
Maybe he based it off of the screenplay.
This is one of the two screenplays that they scrapped. The other guy was like, this is so American. And he was like, well, I'll just...
This is apology to the original. I'm going to make your version. Well, shit. See, this is why I didn't want to do it. Kiefer couldn't save it.
So I've saved you the trouble of having to watch this remake.
Sandra's bullocks.
That's right. Barely in it. But I do think that these movies, Audition and The Vanishing, are pretty similar. And I wanted to do a little comparison about them, right? So I think that both films obviously are about obsession, which leads to destruction, right? Audition's obsession is romantic. Ayama's romantic obsession leads him into mutilation, right? He falls in love with this woman. He's obsessed with her. He has to go find her, even through all the red flags. Rex's obsession is knowledge-based, right? His obsession is with certainty, and his certainty overrides his self-preservation. His need to know outweighs his need to live. Right, both men are punished for wanting something very badly. We've thrown the word banal around quite a bit, but there really is some banality versus spectacle between these two movies. So Raymond is almost painstakingly ordinary. The main violence in The Vanishing is off-screen. We don't really know what happens to Saskia other than the burial. Worse things could have happened, but do we really think that Raymond is a liar, or do you think he really just buried her and that was it?
I think they were careful to make sure that we were aware that to him the worst thing was buried alive because he was claustrophobic.
Right. So it's kind of framed.
He had a doctor's note so he wouldn't have to wear a seatbelt.
But even the way that he...
Fucking cops would laugh at you if you had that.
Like, fine, go
The
die
French
then.
cop was like, oh.
Oh, of course. Okay, everything checks out.
Oui,
Oh, no, claustrophobia? But even through that, like, he kills someone in the manner that he thinks is the scariest. The horror here is very existential, right? Asami's violence in Audition is intimate and very, very prolonged, and the horror there is body, which makes it just a lot more in your face, clearly, because it means someone's getting their foot sawed off. Both films kind of play with structural manipulation a little bit, right? They begin as love stories. Like, one is a melodrama about a widower overcoming grief and looking for love and becomes a body horror film. And the other one's a romantic getaway, which becomes a slow-moving, inevitable tragedy.
Yeah, I see, like, I don't know that, I feel like we picked these movies mainly because they're kind of around the same time-ish, like within 10 years, right? Yeah. But also because they're foreign.
Yep.
And also because they have to do with love, but also because they have quote unquote shocking endings. And that's it. Yeah. I feel like that's the beginning, middle, and end of the relationship with each other. I don't think they share much other than that. I don't know that there's much banality in Audition when compared relative to The Vanishing.
No, I think that The Vanishing is banal, and I think that Audition is spectacle. I think that these two endings are...
At least 1/4 of it.
Yeah. I think these two endings are attempting to be shocking, but I think that one succeeds far more than the other one. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Audition's like left turn toward the end for people who don't know, and by now it's kind of like ruined for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's far more shocking than, you know, you're waiting this entire movie to find out what happens to this woman.
This one's more alive. Like an exclamation mark. I really actually almost wanted it because it goes black after he falls asleep, and I really wanted it to end there. and just be like, you have to decide what's more important. Do you need to know? As an audience member, I almost wanted it to end there. But no, it shows him being buried alive. And I'm just like, that's kind of more of an exclamation point on the end of the sentence of the movie, because it's only literally 5 minutes or less. Versus Audition, we complained about, was, when it starts getting into a horror movie, it's literally a full 3/4 into the film.
That's right.
Until like the first 3/4 of that film and the first 95% of this film are basically people walking in and out of rooms arranging matches. I mean,
we're in the same conversation over and over again. Are you having an affair? No. Are you having an affair? No. Are you having an affair? No. I'm like, okay. Obviously he's not.
I'm like, the next thing he's going to do is walk in a building and start like filling out paperwork for something. Like, what the fuck am I watching?
Well, I have to sign up for my kidnapper's permit. The European bureaucracy. God.
Let's talk about fingerprints on coins.
Yeah. Your fingerprints on the coins. And he's like, that's
the
dumb.
Bicycles. That was such a weird aside.
Oh, yeah. Well, he still had hope he would find her then. He was like, well, now our vacation's ruined because we were planning on bicycling during the Tour de France.
That would have been the longest joke ever, is if he actually does find her. And then he's like, where are my bicycles?
The Vanishing is actually about two bicycles, and they can't find them because everyone in France at that moment is on a bicycle. Who goes bicycling in France during the Tour de France? I mean, like...
Bicyclists?
Posers.
Posers too, that's right.
Yeah, they're like, you want to go bicycling during the tour? Nope. No, we don't. Well, I think we've already touched on this a little bit, but is The Vanishing a horror movie?
Not really, no.
No. It's really
not to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would say it's a suspense movie, but it lays everything out. Like, its cards are on the table.
On paper, I would say it is. But actually in practice and living through this movie, I would say no, not until the very fucking end.
Yeah. I mean, the very, very end.
Yeah. And then it's existential.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of horror-ish in the tunnel, but they're both basically experiencing the coffin together.
That's true. Oh, foreshadowing. I didn't even think about that.
Dickensian.
Okay. That's enough foreshadowing. Thank you. Thank you, Dutch. Were you scared while watching The Vanishing?
Literally in a shadow. What?
Were you scared while watching The Vanishing?
I was not scared, although it was actually uncomfortable because I'm a little claustrophobic as well. I think everyone is.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be trapped in a box.
No.
Underground.
I kind of wanted him to like light the lighter and see like that he was sitting on top of her dead, desiccated corpse or something.
There are so many ways to make it more horror.
Yeah, but that was it. And that's all I needed, really. We're not trying to find ways to make it better. We're trying to find ways to like make it easier to eat popcorn too.
Yeah, we're trying to make it a horror movie.
We're trying to Americanize it
in a better way. And I think at the end of the novel, he blacks out and he starts to envision being with Saskia again. And that's the end of the book. I don't know. What'd you rate The Vanishing?
I gave it a 2.5.
Oh,
I was bored.
For a highly acclaimed film. I did hear you sighing a lot watching this movie, and I know. I mean, like that's how I know how things are going. I give it 3.5 stars, though. I mean, I like this movie. I do.
I like the idea of this movie.
I like the idea of it too, and I mean,
I like talking about it and researching it and like documenting it more than I liked watching it.
I think it's important because of its place in pop culture, you know what I mean? But I don't think that it's important as a standalone film in any kind of a way.
Yeah. I'm in love with what they're trying to do. Right. And I feel like they succeed at it, but like it almost feels like it could be a short, like they spend way too much time with it than is needed to connect to it, because these aren't really likable characters. I almost like the most likable character in this fucking movie is the killer, I think.
Yeah,
in a way, and it's like,
I think that he's the most charismatic, and actually, I think that's the better part of this movie is watching his rehearsals and getting ready to kidnap somebody. But
I love the cute little relationship where they're in cahoots with the daughter and the yeah, with his daughter or whatever. You're cheating on mommy. He's like, sure. He lets her believe that because, of course, what he's actually doing is preparing for murder.
Is cheating on mommy. I mean, in some way. I don't know.
You don't chloroform me anymore.
I think we lost our spark. All right, I'll get the rack. Finally, and maybe difficult to answer, I don't know. Who's the hottest guy in The Vanishing?
I think it's the main dude. Not the killer, but, you know.
Oh, Rex?
Yeah, Gene Bervowitz. I don't know. Bervowitz?
I'm choosing Kiefer Sutherland.
Well, he's not in this movie.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't think that the killer is terrible looking. I think everyone looks fine. They're all plain looking. I don't know. No one stands out.
Plain and tall.
Plain and tall. Blind and tall.
I love how you try to pronounce it, Doug.
Why is it? I didn't remember hearing her last name, and then I looked at it more closely, and I was just like, "Oh, that's a fucking joke."
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do you have some fun facts for me?
Kind of. So Tim Krabbe, who wrote both the novel and the screenplay that was adapted from it, based the story on a newspaper article that he accidentally read about a female tourist who disappeared from a bus trip after buying chewing gum at a gas station in France. The police had searched for 2 nights without finding a trace of the girl. 10 years later, Krabbe did extensive research and found that the girl actually had turned up alive and well 1 day later. And no one, put it in the paper, I guess, that she was found. So she simply boarded the wrong bus.
And just lived her life.
Krabbe even called her to thank her for providing him with the inspiration for the story. That's almost another ending that I want, which is like, actually, he never killed her. And she just left him because he had abandoned her in the tunnel and wanted to fuck him over by taking his keys. And then what actually made this guy actually finally pull the trigger was this guy refusing to let it go and just constantly being in his life. And so finally pulling the trigger on him to kill him.
That would be interesting too.
That would have been
more
interesting. All these different ways to make this more interesting and thought-provoking.
I think we have to call this author Krabbe from now on, though, just based on his attitude about things. So it's Tim Krabbe from now on.
I don't know. Earlier pictures of him, he's kind of Tim Daddy, but when he was earlier, he had a big beard and long hair, and later on he didn't look that way when he became 60, but whatever.
We'll have to look it up.
Bernard Dallier-Dinidjieu had some unorthodox methods to interact with his colleagues. He deliberately picked a fight with Gene Bervowitz prior to their fight scene so that Bervowitz's rage would look genuine. And in the scene where he drugs Johanna Ter-Steeg's character, he held her so tight that she couldn't breathe and really experienced a panic attack. So he was just bullying all of these people left and right.
Look, okay, not everybody wants to use the method, okay, or whatever the fuck. You don't have to do everything so literally.
Well, let's put a pin on that. Meanwhile, director George Sluizer has compared the fates of characters Rex and Saskia to Romeo and Juliet in that they are united in death forever. Dream big, buddy.
Oh my God. Okay, I feel like this movie is more like Orpheus, right? The need for knowledge is so great that you would travel into the underworld kind of thing. Not Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Dream big. As preparation, this is the last one. Gene Bervowitz was genuinely locked up in a real coffin buried under loads of sandbags so that he would feel what it was like in his actor's preparation.
My God.
Actors are stupid.
They are.
Well, this cast must have been just utterly hard to work with. I don't know.
That or
insufferable.
Maybe he did cast these people and he was like, well, you just can't act at all. We're just going to have to do things very real. God. No, that's wrong. That's not the right expression you want when you're buried alive. Here, try it.
Where's Friedkin? Get the sandbags, Friedkin. No, this actor did this to himself.
Oh, well, that's stupid. It's all okay. Dumb. All of it's dumb. These people. I don't know. Maybe it's a French thing.
No, I think it's a Dutch thing. I think their lives are so boring and beige that this is exciting for them.
What does Amsterdam have going on for it?
The red light district. Sex and drugs. Neither of which is in this movie.
There's plenty of fun to have in Amsterdam.
Chloroform.
Well, those were fun. Parts of these were more
Parts
fun
of
than
these
were more fun than
tidbits.
watching the movie.
Tidbits of these were more fun than watching the movie.
I think that just about wraps up our conversation on The Vanishing, Spoorloos, or however you say it.
Sore loser.
As always, we want to know what you think about this movie. Do you find it one of the scariest things ever created? You can tell us on social media at The Film Flamers, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Threads, on Blue Sky.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com, or you can call our hotline at 972-666-7733 and let us know in your own voice how spooked you were by this story.
Did you find it spoopy? That is it for the main feed in February, but we do have a bonus episode coming out for you over on patreon.com/thefilmflamers, so go join the family and collect that bonus episode.
That's right. We don't know what we're going to be covering over there, but we're going to be deciding shortly.
That's right.
And it's going to be good.
And we're going to do it. We're going to do the thing.
Yes.
And then there's March, and it's zombies, so stay tuned.
As usual.
That's right.
I love zombie months.
Me too.
What are we covering?
Meads.
Meads. I love meads.
I know. And perhaps Wild Zero.
Oh.
All the things. Well, Chris,
Whatever.
my box is awaiting. It's time for me to go bury myself and have some
Sweet dreams.
sweet dreams.
I feel like this movie was kind of a zombie movie because everyone's dead inside.
That's how people are in France. Whatever, any amount of French listeners that we have are gone.
They should have catapulted that egg into space.